What's up, musicologists? Welcome to another new Amari Music Talk. I'm Richard Cole. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you've been a long time listener, welcome back. All right, I know it's been a while since a brand new episode has aired, but we moved last month, so just kind of getting settled into the new location. Still a work in progress if you've seen some of the photos, so not ready to reveal the background just yet, but lots of space, lots more room, much happier environment. But enough of that. So let's talk about the audio file. There we go. The Audiophile Blu Ray of Purple Rain. And I know last year it was his 40th anniversary, and not a lot of interesting releases, no expanded box set, not a real lot of hype for the new box set or anything Purple Rain for that matter. We did get a Dolby Atmos mix on streaming last year, and we got a phenomenal book by Andrea Swenson commemorating the 40th anniversary. But, probably because of the whole Netflix situation, a lot of things kind of got in the way of it getting released. Could we still get a box set this year? Looks like with the estate that they are going ahead with Celebration, and the focus is on Around the World in a Day. So will we get that as a box set? Well, the answers to these and other questions we'll explore in another episode, but right now we're going to talk about the Audiophile Blu Ray. Like I said, the mix was released on streaming last year. And if you saw my video reviewing that, I was totally blown away by that mix. So I was happy to get a physical copy of this, and I'm going to talk a lot about that today. And, last year, only thing I had as far as Dolby Atmos access were some Beats earbuds. So again, like I say, check out my review from last year. But was able to get maybe not a top of the line Dolby Atmos soundbar, but it does its job and does a fantastic job of playing the Blu-ray on this. And like I said, we're going to talk about the songs on it, kind of my comparison between the physical version or listening on physical media versus streaming on it. Like I said, this Dolby Atmos seems to be the new thing. Um, you know, just because of this Purple Rain mix is really where I started paying attention, but I've got box sets of other artists that come with a Blu-ray that has a 5.1 or it has a Dolby Atmos mix to it. So I'm looking forward to really spending time now to listen to those mixes and just kind of, like I said, do a comparison. But I just got mine actually yesterday, took a listen to it yesterday, and let's jump right in and talk about it. So I'm going to start off with the first track, which is Let's Go Crazy. Now, on the streaming version, I'm most blown away by the Dolby Atmos mix when I listen to it on streaming, especially with the earbuds, which if you're listening on streaming, that's probably the best way to do it if you don't have like a Dolby Atmos soundbar. But I enjoy the listening on physical media. I enjoy this mix. There's lots of nuances when I listen to it streaming that I enjoy better than listening to it on physical media. But like I said, it doesn't take away from the enjoyment. I, enjoy listening to this mix. Like I said, some of the nuance from the streaming, I enjoy a little bit more. But like I said, if you haven't heard it yet, you'll still be blown away by it if you get the physical version of it. So the next track I'm going to talk about is Take Me With You. And on this one, listening to it on physical media, listening to it through the sound bar, I like the balance of the mix a lot better than what I hear on streaming. There's things on the streaming, again, subtle nuances, whether it's with the vocals or the background vocals, how Apollonia's vocals kind of blend in, or how the background vocals compensate for her lead vocals. But on this mix, like I said, everything is spread out better, and to me, it sounds more balanced. So I enjoy it more just on that basis. But what I really enjoy on this are the drums. The drums to me are a lot deeper on physical media. And after listening to this album for, 40 some odd years now, 40 plus years now, you're used to hearing it in a certain way, whether it was on the original vinyl, whether it was on CD, whether it's cassette, um, whatever medium. You're used to hearing this song a certain way. Your ears are trained to hear it a certain way. But with the drums more pronounced in this Dolby Atmos mix, especially if you're listening on soundbar, it's deeper. The bass has more kick. The bass drum has more kick to it. The tom feel more spread out. Now they're more prominent to me in, I would say, more remastered mixes of the song, and they're a little bit more drowned out when I listen on the soundbar. But again, what compensates is the kick on the drums on that. Another thing is the background vocals on the fade out. They're more buried as it's fading out. So you kind of hear like the background vocals along with Apollonia's lead vocal. And the more remastered that becomes, the lead vocal kind of overpowers at the end. So it kind of takes you out of the mix a little bit. But it fades out. It's a little bit more buried. And I don't know if it's to hide that one note, but to me, it works better than previous mixes of this song. So again, like I said, if you listen to it for the first time on Dolby Atmos, again, you'll enjoy the difference for sure. Okay, and I don't know why my notes are acting all crazy here. Let's see. All right, so the next track up is The Beautiful Ones. And again, this is a nice balanced mix. The vocal runs in the lead vocal, those nuances are emphasized, and it brings out more of the emotion in the track for me when I listen to it. The lead guitar at the end of the, what I call the, do you want him? Those screams at the end. The lead guitar is more pronounced in the mix, and that adds also to the emotion of the vocal. Now, while in other mixes, especially, I remember like when I first got it on vinyl way back in '84, and the type of sound system that I had, it was like it was a Panasonic component set that I had. And when you're listening to The Beautiful Ones on that, my ears still remember, and it's how I judge every mix of that song since then. The Lynn drum, the bass drum is so deep and it's so pronounced. And maybe it's because of how I had it balanced too. But certain mixes, I know like the Paisley Park remix, it lost some of that punch. Um, the remastered vinyl, especially I think like the 2015 Bernie Grumman master and some recent Bernie Grumman masters of that album, it's the deepness is still there, but some of the more recent mixes of that, especially the Paisley Park remix, it lost a lot of that punch in that bass drum, in that Lynn drum. Um, that's still missing to me, but I guess because of the spatial quality of the Dolby Atmos mix, there is some give and take to it. But I think what compensates that is that you get more of the emotion from the vocal. So where you get that depth from the song in its original mixes, I think here, again, because things are so spread out, more that it's the vocal and it's some of the other instruments as well that compensate. And like I said, the emotion still hits, or I think it hits heavier as well on that. So still a great track to listen to. Oh, the lead guitar at the end of the screams, like I said, more pronounced, and it adds to the emotion of the vocal on that too. So let me know what you guys think about that track when you listen to it. Next is Computer Blue. And on Computer Blue, the mix is spread out more, again, on kind of like the original, memories of the original vinyl. That deepness of the bass is really what makes the song for me. To me, you kind of lose it more so when I'm listening on the sound bar as opposed to streaming through the earbuds. You kind of still get that deepness there, but listening on the sound bar, again, like I said, if it's how it's spread out, or you may want to check your equalization as well on it. But for me, it's spread out more. And I think what I enjoy about it are the nuances of the sound effects on that. Let's see, before I go any further with my review of the album, forgot to mention the credits on this. We've got the Atmos mix was produced by Chris James and Charles F. Spicer Jr. The actual Atmos mix was by Chris James, and I shouted him out big time on my review of the streaming Dolby Atmos mix. And I think, this is, again, both the streaming and this is like the best sounding mix engineering that I've heard. Okay, shout out to Giles Martin. I know he does a great job with all the Beatles stuff or whatever, but Chris James, I mean, this is the guy. So the estate, I don't know what you're paying him, but pay a whole hell of a lot more to keep him. Hopefully he remains the engineer on future projects as well. So again, shout out to Chris James on the Dolby Atmos mix. The mixing assistants, we've got Alex Miller, we got Christian Matthew Cullen, and Rick. Unless I can't read it for the writing here. I guess that's Hackleby or Hackby. And then the Atmos mastering is by this is Michael Romanovsky, I think. And this was mixed at, what is that? Is that CVP in Los Angeles? The Atmos pre-mixing at Sunset Sound in Hollywood, California, and mastered at Coast Mastering in Berkeley, California. All right. So again, shout out to those individuals for putting together, to me, like I said, probably the best sounding, remaster, remix, Atmos mix ever. I mean, this is going to have me seeking out more Atmos mixes on things, or more audiophile Blu-rays like this. I believe that Diamonds and Pearls was released as Adobe Atmos like this on Blu-ray. I did not get that. So now I'm going to actually pick that up and see what that sounds like. So looking forward to that. And also I've noticed when I got this from Rhino Music, Rhino Records, which is a division of Warner Brothers Records. And they have other like Curtis Mayfield, Aretha Franklin. So I might start like a little Blu-ray audiophile collection just based on the strength of this. So again, shout out to those individuals. All right, so back to the review. All right, so next song up is Darling Nikki. And what I love about this mix, listening on the sound bar, is that the guitars stand out. You really hear Prince's genius on the drums. So sort of that blending of live and Lindrum, that mix together. I mean, like I said, you really get the, appreciate the genius, because I think he did more with the drum machine. And I know you probably, somebody's going to shout out in the comments, other people in the 80s, I don't know, maybe like a Brian Eno or Trevor Horn or something like that. But hands down, to me, Prince is the best when it comes to drum machine programming. Close second would probably be Jam and Lewis for me when it comes to drum machines. All right. But you also actually feel, and this is at the end with the backwards part or the backwards section, you actually feel the wind and the rain during the background section, or the backwards section. And I'm just sitting there listening to it like, and all of a sudden, I mean, I've heard this a million times since 1984, but hearing this Dolby Atmos mix, even more so than on streaming, listening to it, I'm like, man, I feel a little, yeah, felt a little like chill, like what's going on? But definitely check that out. Next up is When Doves Cry. And the surprise here is that listening to it through the sound bar, it's like I was even more blown away and stunned as much as when I first heard it. And I remember May 1984, listen, it was Magic 108 FM, and they were like, we got the new record by Prince. And, like I say, a lot of fans and a lot of you newbies out there, where history is already laid out for you as you experience, whether it's current artists or current events, as things are unfolding in real time and your initial reaction to it, then that's how we were in the 80s. So, I mean, that's something that, you can't really hate on, because as you're going through life, as you're getting older, you're going through that where stuff is just constantly unfolding. And then by the time, say you have kids or your kids, the future generations discover an artist that's contemporary that you dig, see that history's already laid out where you're discovering that person's hit unfolding in real time like that. But yeah, I definitely remember hearing on the radio When Doves Cry for the very first time, 1984, May, and was like, whoa, I mean, because, 1999 was already in the books, it had its run and everything. And we were kind of anticipating Purple Rain. The closer we were getting to this movie coming out, the closer to the album coming out, it was just that excitement that was building. And this single was sort of like that first, that kind of like first wave of like, oh, this is really happening. Purple Rain is going to be a reality, and all the anticipation that went with that as well. And to hear this Dolby Atmos mix, it was the same feeling. Like I said, I've heard this song a million times since 1984. And a lot of times I'm still able to kind of recapture some of that feeling, but it's more of a feeling like a memory. To me, this put me back in 1984 and then some with it. And like I said, I was just as blown away and stunned by it as the first time I heard it. And I actually enjoy listening to it on physical media with the sound bar more, because I was a little kind of underwhelmed. I mean, like I said, again, the Dolby Atmos mix, whether you're listening to streaming or whether you have a sound bar, and again, maybe it's just a matter of, adjusting your balances, your bass, your treble, or your equalizer, whatever you do. But as much as I enjoyed the Dolby Atmos mix on streaming, I was still a little bit underwhelmed by it. But listening to it through the soundbar, it was, I enjoyed it more so than the streaming. And again, the standout, and probably why I enjoy it more, is because you get more of that spatial quality with the drums. They stand out more and also some of the vocal elements, they're brought up more in the mix as well. So to me, it's like, yeah, you're hearing it, but it still feels like a new song. And my feelings still stand as when I did my review of streaming. It's like listening to a brand new album. So it's not like, oh, here's Purple Rain again. Oh, Lord. No, it's like, damn, this is a brand new album. It was like as if Prince went in and remade Purple Rain with 21st century equipment yesterday. And going on with the last three songs really hits that point home. I Would Die for You. Again, the bass, in this case, the bass guitar, it gives me a deeper appreciation of the song. Because I think over time, because again, we've experienced it in real time. And I Would Die for You, I don't know. It's a song that, because I had the album before I went to go see the movie, because the movie hadn't even come out yet. But I had the album. And it wasn't a song that really knocked me out when I first heard it. And maybe kind of more so seeing the movie, I kind of took to it a little bit more. Um, Later with the tour, was feeling it. And then the 12-inch single where they kind of just basically re-recorded it, kind of like the live version of it. And I got into it a little bit more. And it's something that's grown over time, with me hearing that song. But this, with like I said, the bass guitar gives me a deeper appreciation of it now, to where like, damn, I really love listening to this track. Um, the guitars and the keyboard accents near the end of the song, they remind me of the 12-inch remake, because those things are brought out more in the live versions. They're brought out more in that 12-inch mix. And I just kind of, memories of the original vinyl, memories of cassettes, the original CD, which even back then, the mixes, the CD mixes were terrible with those. Even the Paisley Park remaster, which, hardly anybody's really a fan of, it was still missing something. But the Dolby Atmos mix, both streaming, but more so when I listen to it on this Blu Ray, like I said, it gives the song more life. And Baby, I'm a Star, again, bass guitar is the star of the show on this one. It's more prominent in the mix, and it gives it just a little bit more funk. It was funky, always funky, and probably the one lone bona fide funk track, but it kind of still had that I can't talk, pop appeal to it. So the bass, when you listen to it with the Dolby Atmos mix, kind of gives it a little bit more funk. And the end vamps, where certain keyboard elements, rhythm guitar elements, they're brought out a little bit more. Now listening to it, to me, it feels more like I'm listening to an album track by the time on this one. So that's Baby, I'm a Star. And then finally, Purple Rain. This mix gives me a deeper appreciation of this version of the song. And as I'm listening to, well, let me give a little backstory. Like when I got the album in 84, summer of 84, and I'm listening to it. And, it's a thing like, well, okay, it doesn't sound like the 1999 album, but duh, number one, it's Prince. And I think even then we were kind of used to Prince, like, okay, he's going different direction, different direction. But also too, like, okay, this is a soundtrack to a movie. So we kind of got to take this with a little bit more grain of salt. But when I got to that song, listening to it for the first time, I didn't know what to make of it. I know it wasn't like my favorite Prince track for years. Um, for me, I've always preferred starting off with the live version from Syracuse. I enjoyed that version more. And some key live performances of it since. Probably one of the standouts would be the musicology tour, the at Staples Center, the opening night of that tour, because that was such a like a Ali knockout punch, like this was Prince, like, yeah, I never left. And so it had more emotional weight to it with that. So that's a performance of Purple Rain that I enjoy. Um, Maybe Bittersweet is his actual last performance of Purple Rain. So, like I said, just the original recording, which is a live recording in itself, the original mixes of that song kind of left me a bit underwhelmed with it over the years. And like I said, there's key live versions of it that I enjoyed better. But on this Dolby Atmos mix, this version of the song, it had me doing the Billy Sparks. Like, as I'm listening to it on the sound bar, I'm just like, I mean, I was like, yeah, I was doing the Billy Sparks on that one, really throughout the whole song. Um, the guitar solo with the Dolby Atmos mix, because it's brought out front more, it has more energy and life. And it's like when you listen to it this way, it's like you get the song. Like if you really weren't understanding anything about Purple Rain prior to this Dolby Atmos mix, like I said, people who aren't fans of the song, like deep cut fans of the song, um, if you're trying to figure out what it's all about or how come it does, you'll see why it stands up to all the subsequent live versions where he's put his heart and soul into that live performance of the song. But yeah, the guitar, it has more life and energy, and every note is crisp, clear, and upfront. And that's where this solo belongs. To me, I think it's just so it's not buried so much in the mix as it's just so much a part of the mix in the original mixing and mastering of it that is just kind of like, it's Prince. He's great. He's on guitar. It's great. But you really hear the greatness of it with this Dolby Atmos mix. Um, like I said, it's up front where it belongs. It should have been pushed up, like the volume on that should have been pushed up just a little bit more in the original mix, because you do get that in a lot of the live versions in Syracuse, in every iteration of Purple Rain. It's out there, it's up front, it's there, it's the statement. The guitar solo is the statement, the exclamation point of that song. So of course, in the original recording, the original mix, it should be up front. So I'm glad that they paid attention to that detail and brought out that detail more. Um, Same thing, the string arrangement. And it sounds like it's a part of the song instead of kind of cluttered like it is in the original mixes, where, like I said, the guitar solo wasn't buried. It was just kind of, it just didn't jump out and say, hey, I'm the guitar solo. But the string arrangement just kind of sound, it's just kind of, it just sounded cluttered to me. And it's like, okay, it's the end of the song. And the way that it continues to the fade out, it's like, okay, I get it. Let's move on. But again, when you hear each and every instrument kind of bouncing here or panning here or in the middle here, or it's faded up a little bit more there, it's now a part of that song's DNA, and you get a clear understanding of why it was put there, and what it is. Like I said, instead of being buried in the mix or cluttered in the mix, those strings have an identity and a life of their own now. So you feel that emotional weight, like, I'm sure a lot of us aren't like classical music fans, but there's a reason, like in any pop song or rock song or even soul songs that have utilized any type of orchestration, there's a purpose for it to be there. And you don't have to be a student of classical music, or you don't have to own a lot of classical music to understand that nuance. But those things are put there to give the song the identity that it has, or that instrument is meant to have a prominent identity as being part of the song. It's there for the purpose of that song. And there, yeah, you get to appreciate the arrangement of Wendy and Lisa for that string arrangement there. And now, granted, to me, I think hands down, I think I wouldn't say better or greater, but I think Claire Fisher is a better fit for Prince's music than what Wendy and Lisa were coming up with. But it doesn't take away from their talent. It doesn't take away from anything that they've been able to do with Prince's music. Obviously, it's there, it works, and it sounds great. So it doesn't mean that it's lesser, but I just think that Claire Fisher's a better fit. But this was before the appearance of Claire Fisher on anything that Prince has done. So again, string arrangement has an identity of its own. And like I said, just had me doing I was like, wow, this is absolutely an amazing mix. It's a shame that we didn't get like a proper 40th anniversary for Purple Rain. Like I said, there's probably a lot of reasons. Netflix, the documentary, the controversy with that, and the holdup of Prince vault material or releasing anything at all. But now that that's behind us, I think a great opportunity was missed in celebrating that. But you know what? I'm cool with waiting till the 50th anniversary. So, I'm, you know, working out, taking vitamins, trying to eat better. So when that 50th comes around in 2034, I'm ready for that 50th anniversary box set. And, like I said, it's time, but right now, like I said, we've got this Dolby Atmos mix to as a celebration keepsake, so to speak. And, it's just time to look forward to what's next, whether that's around the world in a day. I'm going to cover some of that in future episodes too. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. But that's the Dolby Atmos mix. Did you pick it up? Was it something you're thinking about getting? Are you going to invest in the sound bar? Like I said, I don't have the money to buy the best of the best of the best of the best. But, I got something that's functional and it works and it does its job. And it sounds great on what I have. Or, if you don't like physical media and if you want to listen on streaming, it's available on your streaming platform that supports Dolby Atmos. So definitely check that out. But leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this Dolby Atmos mix, whether you got it on physical media, whether you got it on streaming. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And also, if you want to become a Patreon supporter, by all means, do that. Got lots of stuff coming up. There's lots of stuff on there as well, bonus features, exclusives. Check that out. And like I said, just had to rush and do this episode today. There's one more episode that's in the can that I'm going to drop, and then after that drops, then we're back into the swing of things and looking forward to it. So thanks for the patience, thanks for waiting, and until next time, create your day, create your life. Peace.